So if you remember from our object-oriented programming section, we talked about controllers, which are basically a wrapper class or a wrapper function that manages the interfacing between the view, which is the way the data is displayed, and the model, which is where the data comes from. The controller kind of works between the two, allowing you to take the model and do what you need to do with it logically before you push it out to the view. This is the essence of the model view controller split up that you've probably heard about. So in this next step, what we'll do is wrap controller classes around our pages. Now at this point in the development of our application, it might seem a little arbitrary that maybe we're doing it just to be more object-oriented, but by wrapping our controllers in classes, we'll be able to plug into some additional tools in Symfony. So that will be coming down the pikes after we get our controllers set up. So to get started, let's jump to our resource pack, and let's open up the 24th step, which is called front.php, adding controllers for our pages. Go ahead and copy the code and paste it over the code in your front.php file and save it. To get a handle on our changes, let's compare this version with our previous version of the front.php file inside of a file comparison tool. So we can ignore this big red section, which just includes examples of how to use the matcher and generator, but the rest of these changes are kind of important. These two lines, along with the extract line, have been moved over to our render template function. So the idea with this render template function, and you'll start to grasp this as we follow the code, is that we're creating a general controller for all of our pages that does the same thing. It's going to extract all of the variables from our attributes inside of our request object. It's going to start an object buffer, include the file that's linked up with the page, and then return a response object. So what's happening first here is that we're taking all of the variables that we were extracting before that we got by using the match method in our matcher object, and instead we're adding these to the attributes list inside of our request object. This attributes is actually an instance of the parameter bag class, and it includes simple methods in order to add parameters in and get them out. You see up here, we're using the all in order to grab all of the attributes out of that parameter bag. So in our last step, when we did a print R on these different matches, we got to see exactly what gets returned from matcher match. For bye or for hello, we would get a single key value pair, and the key would be _route, and the value would be the route name. When we matched hello/Fabian, we also got an additional key value pair, the key being name and the value being Fabian. So down here in the try block, when we would do a matcher match and then get the path info, if the path was, say, hello/Fabian, we would get two items that got extracted. One item would be route, and one item would be name. The route item we then passed into our include. So remember, we were using this line in order to line up the route with the file that included the code for that route. And within this, we're using the _route variable that we just extracted here. And that's what gets put into this token right here inside of the first parameter to sprintf. So for hello/Fabian, the route name would be hello, and so the page we would look for would be hello.php. And we're doing the same thing in our new file, except up here in our render template. And instead of extracting the values we got from matcher match, we're adding those values into our attributes for the request. This will allow us to add additional attributes or remove some attributes before we actually pass it to the template file. So after we take those values and add it to attributes, we run a call user func. Now what this function does is allow you to pass the name of a function along with any additional parameters that you want to pass to that function, and it will run that function. So the way we're getting our function in this case is by looking at the attributes inside of our request object, and we're getting the _controller attribute. Now so far, it doesn't look like we're going to actually get one of those, and if we leave our app.php file the same as it was in our last step, we won't. But we're going to adjust the app.php file to pass this _controller value. And so this will be a function name, this first part here, this entire thing, and then the second parameter will get passed to that function, and that will be the request. So to begin with, for both of our pages, our hello page and our bye page, what we're going to do is call renderTemplate as our controller. And you can see here that it's taking request as a parameter. So that's what's happening here.